Rachel always believed that the role of HR was to enforce boundaries. Quietly, consistently, and without ego, she had built her reputation over 2 decades on discretion and discipline. Carving out her authority not through intimidation, but through the meticulous calm of someone who knew how to clean up other people's messes. But she had no idea how messy her own would become. Rachel Holloway, the gatekeeper of workplace ethics. That's how one of the interns had jokingly introduced her during orientation the year before. She had smiled, a tight-lipped curve of professionalism, and added, "Ethics are everyone's job, I'm just the one who keeps the receipts." At 42, Rachel was proud of her position. Director of Human Resources at Lintel Systems, a mid-sized but high-profile tech firm in San Diego. Her office had a view of the harbor. Her emails were crisp, her wardrobe neutral and sharp. Nothing flashy, she didn't need flair, her presence was enough. She lived with Martin, her husband of 14 years, a software engineer with gentle eyes and quiet hands. They had met at a tech conference in Portland and never looked back. Martin cooked, Rachel scheduled, he handled the morning, she managed the night. They didn't fight often, they didn't need to, their lives ran parallel like train tracks, functional, aligned, unbothered, or so Martin thought. Lately, Rachel had been getting home later. Not just 15 minutes, hours. She always had a reason. Back-to-back exit interviews, new day initiatives, a last-minute crisis with payroll, the kinds of things that only she could handle. Or so she implied. Martin didn't push. He had always admired her devotion to her work. But there was something else. Rachel had started showering as soon as she got home. She used to change and pour herself a glass of wine while debriefing her day. Now she disappeared into the bathroom without a word. She no longer left her phone face up on the kitchen island. In fact, she no longer left it anywhere. It remained glued to her side. Screen dark, notifications off. One night, Martin walked past her office at home and saw her staring at her phone. Smiling in a way he hadn't seen in a long time. That soft, playful expression, like she was 16 again. When she noticed him, her face went flat so quickly it startled him. "Everything okay?" he asked, keeping his tone light. She nodded. "Just work." He believed her, or rather, he needed to. Rachel wasn't cold. She still kissed him goodbye in the mornings. Still remembered to buy his favorite cereal. But there was a current beneath her that he couldn't reach anymore. As if she was walking through their life with a part of her somewhere else. He started to notice how often she deleted her texts. How she smiled at incoming calls but never answered them in front of him. How she locked the bathroom door now, even when just brushing her teeth. Martin didn't confront her. He wasn't the kind of man who leapt to suspicion. He was the kind who waited, hoping the truth would come around without being chased. And then, one evening, he found the pin. Rachel had been in a rush that morning. Left her coat draped on the armrest of the couch. Martin was looking for his keys when his hand brushed against something small and sharp in the pocket. He pulled it out. It was a silver lapel pin. A small enamel lightning bolt. Stylish, but not Rachel's style, and definitely not hers. He turned it over in his palm. No initials, no tag, just an accessory, but it didn't belong. Rachel didn't wear pins. She hated them, said they snagged on her scarves. Martin sat down, pin in hand, heart beating slowly but loudly. Something settled in his chest then. Heavy, unnamed, not quite betrayal, not yet. When Rachel came home that night, she was tired, her eyes shadowed by something more than exhaustion. She smiled at him the way someone smiles at a picture of themselves from before everything changed. Martin said nothing. He didn't ask about the pin, didn't mention the late nights, just nodded when she said she was skipping dinner and going to bed early. And then he watched her walk away. It was in that moment he realized the woman he loved was standing in front of him. But the life they had built was already halfway behind them, and she had crossed a line she once taught others never to approach. It started with a joke. Tyler had been in the building for 3 days when he made Rachel laugh. Really laugh. She had been walking past the intern row, clipboard in hand, when he called after her in a faux serious tone. "Hey, Director Holloway, what's the HR-approved number of coffees I can drink before I'm legally considered a liability?" She turned, smirked. "6. After that, you owe the company a keyboard." It was harmless, that's what she told herself. Tyler was young, 24, fresh out of UC Berkeley. He had a quick smile, a head full of ambition, and a charm that seemed to rise off him like cologne. He wasn't just eager, he was magnetic. People liked him immediately. He had a gift for making others feel seen. Rachel didn't remember when the first message arrived. Maybe it was after that all-staff happy hour. Maybe it was the night she stayed late and he brought her a coffee just the way she liked it. Extra hot, oat milk, no sugar. It wasn't flirtatious, not at first, just warm, grateful. "Thanks for not making the HR talk awkward," she responded. "Thanks for staying awake during it." They laughed. Then they kept talking. DMs turned into texts. Emojis. Inside jokes. Compliments hidden between lines of sarcasm. A photo of her desk strewn with paperwork. A photo of his shoes propped on a conference room chair. Captioned, "Thinking like a VP already." She told herself she was mentoring him. That it was nice to feel admired. Relevant. The first touch was accidental. Fingers brushing while reaching for the same file. The second wasn't, a hand resting on her lower back as he leaned close during a meeting. She should have said something. Instead, she smiled. She didn't know when they became something else. The hotel room was neutral territory. Clean, beige walls, quiet, the kind of place people disappear in without leaving a trace. Tyler made it feel like something out of a secret novel. He called her Rach. Whispered things that made her knees weak. Held her like she was fragile and powerful all at once. They met 3 times, then 4. Each time, she told herself it would be the last. Then came the messages she didn't answer fast enough. "Are you ignoring me? We had a good thing. You're just going to ghost me? You think I don't have things saved?" Her stomach twisted. She tried to pull away gently. Claimed stress, workload, home tension. Tyler didn't back off. "I'm not your secret, Rachel, and if I'm not good enough to be in your life, maybe I should be in someone else's inbox." There were photos, clips, his hand on her thigh, her voice in the dark, the unmistakable rhythm of their moments. He sent her one, just a few seconds long. No face, but enough. "Accidents happen," he texted. "Projectors get hijacked. Emails get misrouted." Rachel panicked. She blocked his number, reported him anonymously to IT for suspicious network behavior, a weak move. She knew. She debated confessing to Martin, to her boss, to legal, but the idea of standing in front of them, peeling off her mask, admitting what she had done, it felt impossible. She went silent instead. She buried it. But secrets rot. 2 weeks later, during the Q3 all-hands meeting, she took her usual seat near the front. Tyler was nowhere in sight. Good. The lights dimmed. The projector hummed to life. The first slide should have been about retention rates. Instead, it was them. Rachel, half naked, her breath caught mid-laugh. A still frame from one of the videos. Muted, but unmistakable. Gasps. A chair scraped. Someone dropped their coffee. Her heart exploded in her chest. She stood, tried to move toward the screen. But it cut to black. Then silence. And phones. Dozens of them, raised, recording, archiving, sharing. Rachel did not speak. She walked out, one foot in front of the other, like a woman on a rope bridge that had just started to burn. The room was cold, not physically, the temperature was fine. But something about the air inside the boardroom made Rachel feel like her blood had dropped 10 degrees. 3 men and 1 woman sat across from her. Their expressions tight, professional, the company's COO, the general counsel, the head of security, and the senior VP of communications. They weren't angry, that might have been easier. They looked like people preparing to witness a car crash they couldn't stop. "Rachel," the COO began, voice level, "we need to give you the opportunity to share your version of what happened." She opened her mouth. No sound came out. The words were there, somewhere, floating just out of reach. But her throat had closed around them like a trapdoor. What version? The one where she had been seduced? The one where she had been reckless? The one where she had simply been so tired of being invisible? So desperate to feel alive that she let herself fall? She swallowed hard, looked at the glass of water in front of her but didn't touch it. "I made a mistake," she said finally. Her voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. No one reacted. They just kept nodding, jotting down notes. "We're putting you on leave until we complete our internal investigation," the general counsel said. "Effective immediately," added the VP of Comms. Her eyes soft with something that might have been pity. Rachel signed the papers with fingers that barely moved. When she got home, the lights were off. Martin was already there, sitting at the kitchen table, a manila envelope in front of him. He didn't stand when she walked in, didn't speak. She placed her bag on the counter, slowly, carefully, like every movement might shatter something invisible. "Martin," she whispered. He looked up. His face wasn't angry, it was blank. "You're the one who lectures people on boundaries," he said. "You've built your whole career on drawing lines for others. What happened to yours?" Rachel took a step toward him, and he stood abruptly. "Don't," he said. "Please." She froze. Then the shouting started. Not from him, from her. She told him she had made a mistake, that it had gotten out of hand, that she had tried to end it, that she didn't know what else to do. He didn't say a word. He just picked up the envelope, tucked it under his arm, and walked out. He didn't slam the door. He didn't look back. At work, things unraveled quickly. By Wednesday, someone had printed screenshots from the video and taped them to the mirror in the women's restroom. By Friday, there was a Twitter account posting memes with her face Photoshop onto degrading images, followed by dozens of coworkers. No one said anything to her directly, but when she entered a room, conversations died. Eyes lingered, some with disgust, some with thrill. The silence was worse than any insult. She tried to speak to HR, her former domain. The woman now filling her role avoided eye contact and suggested Rachel take some time away from the office. Rachel sat in her car in the company parking lot the next morning. Engine off, keys in her lap. Her hands were shaking. She looked out across the sea of windshields and wondered how many of them had seen it. How many had forwarded it? How many had saved it? She started crying. Not small, delicate tears, but the kind that came from the stomach. That gutted, that broke. She screamed, once, then twice, punched the steering wheel. Her wedding ring cut her knuckle. The car filled with her sobs. She didn't go inside. She drove away. Because this wasn't about an affair anymore. This was execution by humiliation. This was character death by committee. She was no longer Rachel Holloway, HR director. She was the scandal, the punchline, the woman who got caught. The termination letter arrived by courier. A single page, unsigned, with the company logo at the top and a line that split her life in two. This termination is based on a breach of the company's ethical code and the reputational harm incurred. Rachel sat on the edge of her bed with the letter in her lap, still sealed in its envelope, her hands motionless. She'd known it was coming, but knowledge does little to blunt the violence of confirmation. She didn't cry, not immediately. Instead, she stood, opened her closet, and began folding the clothes she once wore to command rooms. Blazers, pencil skirts, neutral heels, the uniform of authority. She placed them all in a box she wouldn't label. That night, Martin returned, just long enough to leave a white envelope on the counter. She waited until the door clicked shut before opening it. No documents, just a letter. "You didn't just betray me, Rachel. You betrayed the version of you I fought to believe in. The one who stood taller than the rest. The one who always knew the rules, not just enforced them." It was signed with his full name. Not M. Not Love Martin. Just Martin Holloway. As if he were filing an exit interview. She sat on the floor and read it again. And again. Each word punctured her differently. The calls stopped coming. Then the texts. Her contacts list shrank without deletion. Old colleagues removed her from group chats. 2 of them blocked her entirely. On a forum for women in HR leadership, someone had anonymously posted a thread. An HR director at a known tech firm was recently involved in an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate. The fallout was ugly. Let this be a lesson. The higher you climb, the harder the fall. She didn't need to scroll to know who they meant. Her LinkedIn inbox filled with recruiters, until the story spread. Then it filled with silence. A silence that said, "We Googled you. We saw. Thank you, but no." She attended interviews anyway, sat across from men and women who smiled politely and asked the usual questions. But the moment they glanced down at her name, something changed. A flicker in the eye. A forced clearing of the throat. One interviewer, young, overly rehearsed, asked, "How do you handle ethical breaches in teams?" She didn't answer, just packed her bag, stood, and left. Late one night, unable to sleep, Rachel sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad and pen. She thought she was going to write a plan, a way forward, a checklist. Instead, she wrote a letter, addressed to Tyler. She would never send it. That wasn't the point. "Dear Tyler, I thought I was the one in control. I thought experience outweighed youth. Power outweighed charm, but all I had were rules, and you never played by them. You knew what I stood to lose, and you were never afraid of making me lose it. Maybe that was the game for you. I thought I was pulling the strings. Turns out, I was the marionette, a middle-aged pawn in your performance of rebellion. This wasn't love. It wasn't even lust. It was exposure. I thought I had power. But I was just the easiest one to burn." She signed it with no name. Then folded it twice and placed it under a candle. Not to burn, just to bury, because some things are not written to be seen. Some things are written to stop them from echoing in the dark. Rachel left the city with no announcement. No goodbye post. No new beginning speech. She simply disappeared into a smaller life, slipping into a town 2 hours north where no one knew her name and the silence came without judgment. Her new apartment was the top floor of a weathered duplex. It smelled like old wood and soap. The landlord didn't ask questions. The neighbors nodded but never lingered. She liked it that way. There was peace in anonymity. She worked part-time at a small office supply store. No titles, no deadlines, just shelves to stock and orders to file. Some days she didn't speak to more than 3 people. Those were the days she preferred. She no longer wore the sharp lines of a power suit. She wore sweaters, soft jeans, shoes with thick soles. She cooked, read. Sometimes she walked for miles without direction. Her phone rarely rang. 3 years passed. She learned Martin had remarried through a photo someone tagged on social media. A beach wedding, a woman in blue. Rachel stared at the image longer than she meant to. He looked happy, truly happy. She didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt, but because some pain ages out of tears. Then came the letter. It was official, from a district court in another state. Tyler James Holloway had been arrested. Charges: blackmail, coercion, and the unlawful recording of a sexual act without consent. The victim was a young analyst at a media firm, but they wanted Rachel as a corroborating witness. The prosecutor had found her letter, submitted during a previous civil complaint. She was the pattern, the first, if not the only. She said yes when she took the stand. The courtroom was quiet. Tyler didn't meet her eyes. He looked smaller than she remembered. Not younger, just diminished. Like a person who had finally run out of script. Rachel answered each question with precision. No tremble, no theatrics, just fact. The judge listened. The jury took notes. And somewhere between the second and third question, Rachel realized she wasn't afraid. She had already survived the worst thing. When it was over, she stepped outside, blinking into the light. The world hadn't changed. Cars still honked. People still moved past without noticing her. But she had changed. A reporter caught her at the sidewalk. "Do you regret having the affair?" Rachel paused. "No," she said. "I regret not ending it sooner. When I still had someone worth apologizing to." She turned and walked away. the weight of old mistakes no longer clinging to her shoulders but folded. Finally, into the past. Outro. Infidelity might start in secret, but it ends in front of everyone. Some affairs burn fast, others burn everything around them. You might forgive, you might forget, but trust never comes back whole.